Greetings and blessings, everyone. This is yours truly, Empress Chassie Warmington, coming to you live today. Thank you for joining me with my continuous session that I'm going to be doing this event every Saturday at 6. I'm going to do a continuation of this because this is a very serious issue and it is constantly ignored. And that's why people are losing their minds and going mad because they don't know how to process the pain that they're feeling inside. So they just vent out and get violent. And so I'm going to be putting up some definitions of different words, and you guys can read those definitions, and I will be showing my face in a moment. Thank you for watching. Hey guys, just letting you guys get some definitions. Read these definitions so you all can understand exactly what I'm going to be talking about. This is going to be, I did an introduction of it last week, but I'm going to get in more depths and detail. I know this part is boring because, you're like, okay, we don't want to just read definitions and stuff, but it's very important to read these definitions so you can understand what, excuse me, what these different things mean. So when I am giving the commentary and I'm speaking about it, you will have a better understanding of what I mean. Thank you again for watching. Okay. So the last two, well, got a few more, but I'm going to go ahead and come on so you guys can actually see my face now because I know this can be very annoying. So here I am. Thank you guys for your support and for everybody who's been watching and been so supporting me. Thank you all who has been very patient with me, who has been praying for me because I have really been struggling with this pneumonia and I've been very sick, um, battling um, this pneumonia on top of the regular chronic illnesses and diseases that I'm already battling. So I'm not looking my best right now. So just excuse that. And that's why I didn't even go where I normally go to for my backdrops and all of that because it's just right now I'm just really pressing and pushing my way through. But before I get started, let me go ahead and get a shout out to uh, Tima's Accessory. This is where I get my necklace from. And I got this bracelet. This is a beautiful bracelet. I like this bracelet. Well, okay, there we go. You guys can see this beautiful red bracelet has the rhinestone in the middle and it has like the chain and the rhinestone and a little bit of gun, some gunmetal. This is a gunmetal bracelet, and these accessories I got from uh, Tima's accessories. So thank you, Tima, for these accessories. So moving forward, with talking about addiction to trauma, hurt, and pain caused by verbal, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and mental abuse are things that I know very too well. I am extremely familiar with those types of abuses, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's not unfortunate because had me not experienced it, then I wouldn't be able to, um, relate and be able to, help other people who may be experiencing similar type of or have gone through similar type of hurt and they just don't know how to process what they're feeling because one thing about it is if you don't know what you're fighting and what you're up against, it's a lot of times hard. You can't prepare for it and you can't tackle it when you don't know what it is. So that's why I was showing the definitions at the beginning. um One thing about addiction is having a strong, impulsive, almost type uncontrollable response, or craving or desire for something, to put it short. I did a dictionary version, but they draw it all out, but they also give different situations, different scenarios, different, ways of and forms of that kind of abuse. Now, what ended up happening with addictions is a lot of people have addictions and don't realize they have addictions. Some people call it habits. Excuse me, guys. Stop, little boy. It's my co-host back here getting into stuff while I'm here. He is. Say hi. But they think it's just habits, or they think it's just something that is taught in a family, or it's just something normal when it's really a negative addiction. And so it becomes their norm. So it doesn't feel like abuse, it doesn't seem like abuse, it doesn't look like abuse. They just feel that it's normal. And something that I know for melanin people especially, um, for generations, we've been taught to be abusive towards each other, um, especially during the time of slavery, because you got to remember when our ancestors, for melanin people who ancestors were kidnapped and forced into slavery, they did some very horrific and very dehumanizing things to our ancestors, from making mothers and sons have sex with each other, mothers and daughters have sex with each other, um, has sons and fathers rape their sons, and then even demasculated the fathers, especially the ones that were very strong and built, by tying them and spreading their bodies, tying them and spreading their bodies out like this, and raping them in front of their family, so this mentality has been trickled down from generation to generation, um, because it was instilled in them through beatings, through fear, through intimidation, and against their will and force. But it became their norm, and because they were forced, many of our ancestors were forced to continue on that pattern, that tradition. They became um, it became normalized to them. Abuse was a normalized thing for them. So, it's like, okay, if I can't control you, then I'm going to beat you. I'm going to hurt you, because that was the normalization. That's what they were taught. Um, and it was instilled in them in a very cruel and demeaningful way. So, with that happening, it just continued the pattern, that derogative pattern and psychological virus, killer virus, just travel from generation to generation. And that's why I know, for me, what happens is when you stand up against something that's wrong, that's been normalized and been accepted as correct, that you're told that you're weak, that that you have to get tough skin. It's like you get punished, or you get picked at, bullied, belittled, mocked, made fun of, for having upright standards and morals, and for standing up for yourself, and for not accepting abuse as normalization. So when you stand up against anybody or anything or anyone who tries to normalize any form of abuse, um, you are looked upon as the bad guy. It's almost like a child who is constantly bullied, and you notice that the child will constantly complained and tried to reach out, try to get the issue resolved, and nothing was ever done. And then, as soon as the bully snaps, then they want to treat. I mean, as soon as the person who was being bullied snaps on the bully and fly off the handle on the bully, then they want to punish the victim. So they make the victim into the suspect, and treat the suspect like the suspect is the victim, when that's not the case. So this has been a constant pattern, taught from generation to generation. And it's an addiction. It's a spiritual and mental and psychological, and emotional addiction that a lot of melanin people, and I won't even just say melanin people, because I know a lot of white people that experience that. I know Asians that have experienced that. I know Hispanics that have experienced that. Mideastern, I mean, people who have experienced that. Canadians who has experienced that. People of different, ethnicities and backgrounds and nationalities. We all have at some point at time experienced that, whether we were aware of it or not. And so, growing up with a in a very overbearing and religious household, um, for me, it was always, I when I became older, I started understanding, but I was very timid and very naive, very. I was made weak. I was made weak because times that I stood up for myself, I would be punished. It was kind of about the with the scenario synopsis that I just gave you, on how the person who's being bullied becomes the suspect, and they start looking at the bully as the victim instead of the suspect. And that's just unfortunately how things have constantly gone in this society. So you have to protect yourself, and you have to guard your heart. I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't know anything about psychological and mental abuse, verbal abuse, spiritual abuse. I didn't know. Only abuse that I knew of was the ones that were physical, which is sexual abuse, and of course physical abuse, where someone's beating on you and harming you like that. But as far as mental abuse, psychological abuse, trauma, and uh, P, PS, post traumatic PTSD, I didn't understand any of that. I didn't know what none of that stuff was. I didn't learn any of that until I became an adult, like maybe in my late 20s, to be honest about it, because I didn't know and understand mental health and mental illness. I didn't know that those kind of abuses falls under mental illness and mental health, because it can cause trauma, anxiety, depression, um, post-traumatic stress disorders. It can cause addictive behaviors, self-sabotaging behaviors, reckless behaviors. So, you know, as I got older, I really start understanding a lot of things. Things start making sense to me, and I'm gonna be honest. That's when I was able to forgive my mom, because I did not. I was very angry and hurt growing, for a long time, and I would tolerate it, like we tolerate things because we may at that time need the assistance, or we may need the help, or just to try to keep the peace. And that's how it was with me. Like I tolerated certain people and certain things because it's benefited me. So it's kind of like being selfish, to be honest. That's what it really is. And also as a way to, it's almost like also as a way of revenge. But I learned that that wasn't the proper way to go about dealing with the pain that I was had inside. And I did not realize that I was addicted at that time. That is, I was addicted to trauma, hurt, and pain. And so that's what I gravitated to. And that's the kind of energy that I was carrying and had on me all that time, and didn't realize I was carrying that. And that's why every time I got in a relationship, I was always going through some type of abuse. If it wasn't physical abuse or sexual abuse, it was also verbal abuse, mental. It was like all forms of abuse. I was going through it. And um, being addicted to hurt, trauma, and pain, because you have been abused, a lot of times you don't know how to assess things. So I never was good at that time assessing. I was always being more complimentary and more surrendering because that's all I knew. And I thought that was compromising. But there's a difference in compromising and surrendering, and putting yourself in a vulnerable position, or feeling guilty for standing up for yourself. And I used to always feel guilty because I grew up like that. I was always made to feel guilty for standing up for myself against anything or anybody who would hurt me and cause harm. And I got punished for it too, severely punished, getting beatings and whippings, grounded. Um, and then when I became an adult, being in physical abusive relationships because, I was standing up for myself. So I always, at that time, I felt like, um, if I stood up for myself, I didn't understand that that was part of the process of of this spiritual warfare and psychological warfare when you're dealing with a spiritual entity, or you're dealing with emotionals and psychological entities that you have been patterned by force to follow. And how in your coping skills, how you cope with things determines that as well. And I was never good at coping with things. What I would do is I would always run. Instead of dealing with stuff, I stopped fighting and I just started running from my problems, because it's like I couldn't, every time I stood up for myself, it's like I got punished, severely punished for it. So I just stopped fighting and I just started running. And that wasn't the answer either. That wasn't the answer either. And so with that, I found myself just having an addiction that I was unaware of at that time to um, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, verbal abuse. It's like if it wasn't causing me pain like that, really, I didn't know how to. mm, I would say it wasn't that I didn't know how to. I wanted, but it's like I settled, because it's like I just kept finding myself in those kind of situations where there was just friendship with people wanting to use me, take advantage of me, treat me like a dog. And it's when I stand up for myself, or if I gave into the bullying or the intimidation or whatever, then they turned around and wanted to use it against me without acknowledging what they did to me and how they wronged me. So it was just I found myself in a place where I was just always in trauma, just traumatized from dealing with those types of abuses and addictions. And I was already dealing with other traumas from being sexually assaulted as a little girl, and beaten and kidnapped and raped, and just a lot of stuff, that negative things that happened, bullied, even particularly by family members, which was the worst. You know, you get bullied by strangers, that's one thing, but when you have it in your family, then you got cliques in your family that wants to gang up on you because they favor this person over you, and they don't really know you. It sets a tone in you and an energy in you where you just don't want to be bothered with anybody, and you kind of shut down, and you kind of go into this place of depression and um worthlessness, feeling worthless, feeling um not valued, not feeling good about yourself. And I was in that place for a long time, so it's just like anything that felt like love, or anything that felt like it was giving me positive attention, even if it was bad attention, I gravitated to it, because it was it was something that I had became accustomed to, and I was addicted to and didn't know it. So I was constantly in this pattern, and it just seemed like it was never ending. It was just a never ending pattern. And I had to, after my last relationship, I just had to really stop. I'm like, why is this? And I just kept, I was looking at this consistent pattern. And I was like, I need to find the root of this. Like something is off, something's amiss, big time. What is it? And so that's when I was doing a lot of praying, I was doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of meditation. And I started seeing things, and it's like the universe started revealing things to me that I was not able to see before. I didn't have the wasn't able to have the clarity at that time. So once I start being able to have clarity and start seeing things, I was like, whoa. I'm telling you, it was so emotionally, whew. When you finally get to that place where you realize that you had been addicted to trauma, hurt, and pain caused by verbal, emotional, psychological, mental, and spiritual abuse, on, as well as physical and sexual abuse, it you feel, especially when it takes you so long to catch it, because me 47. So it took me so long to finally get it. I'm like, damn, I'm almost half a century old. Like, what the hell? Like, shoot. I wish I would have figured this out. Well, had enough wisdom and understanding and knowledge to figure this out, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would things would have turned out so much differently for me in my life. Like a lot of stuff that I went through, especially with bad relationships and abusive relationships, and these inconsistencies and these instabilities, in my life, things would have panned out better. And so, when you come into the realization that you have been addicted to all of this kind of crap, it is really difficult to process through that. You go through, oh my gosh, your emotions are literally going to be all over the place. It's one of those things where, and the thing about it is you have to do it by, I won't say that necessarily by yourself, because you do need people to talk to and stuff, like people that you can really trust and confide in, and it's not going to go no further than that. But for the most part, it's one of those things you just have to deal with. You have to heal yourself from yourself, and in order to do that, you have to go through these channels of different emotions. It is very vexing. It is extremely vexing, and it becomes extremely vehement and very exhausting, very overwhelming, very tiresome, especially mentally and spiritually and emotionally tiresome. You just be, oh my God, you just want to lay down and die. To be honest with you, you really do, because the healing process of dealing with all of that is is not a comfortable, it's not at all comfortable. It is not comfortable at all. It's not easy. And so when I was as I'm going through this healing and realization so that I could heal, me found myself in this place that I could not even explain to anybody. Like there's no way for me to verbally explain it to you. But it was very dark, lonely, gloomy, cold, and very scary. However, we had to go through that because that was the only way I was going to be freed. It's like being kidnapped, right? And you finally say that your kidnappers took you into a really dark forest and you're not familiar with how to get out of this forest because you didn't even realize how you got in it. And and you finally escape, and you know that you're able to really truthfully escape because you have killed your kidnapper, or you wounded your kidnapper to the point where your kidnapper will not be able to come after you or pursue you. So now you got to find your way out of this forest, but you still bound. You still have these ties, so you have to try to get out of these ties and out of these bounds while you try to figure out how to get out of this deep swamp forest. And in this forest, with the swamps, you got to deal with wildlife. You got to deal with scorpions, poisonous snakes, traps that may be set up as snares that may be set up to catch wildlife, but you could get caught up in it yourself. So you're trying to feel your way through, and it's dark and it's gloomy because the fog and the depths of the forest is so deep that it's dark. But you can see like far off. You can see that glimpse of light. So you know that there's some light somewhere. You know there's light. You know that there's an opening, but going through that process and going through the deep depths of the forest to get there, it's not easy because you got to go over ravines, you got to jump over rivers, then you got to deal with swamps, and you got to deal with all these things that could snare you and pull you back in or entrap you and keep you there. And you don't want to get stuck in that place in your psyche, because if you get stuck in that place, you're not going to you're not going to know what else to do, and then you'll just stay there till somebody else come around who may do the same thing, may be a kidnapper also. So you know you got to free yourself. And so I was going through this. I was dealing with these channels of emotions, and I never experienced that type of warfare, spiritual, mental, psychological, emotional warfare ever in my life. It was really difficult, and it was very painful because you have to cope with life still. You know, you can't just shut yourself away and not deal with real life issues and deal with real life, and you got family and friends, and you're trying not to slip into a place of great depression, because if you come chronically depressed, that's not going to help you. Usually, even if you get medication treatments for it and institutionalized for it, you don't want to medicate yourself up. You want to be able to be whole. See, that's the difference between being healed and being whole. So let me tell you how. Say, for instance, you get injured and you get stitches, and the stitches heal up, but you can still see the scarring from the stitches. That's not being made whole, that's being healed. When you're whole, you don't even see the scars. It doesn't even remind you that you had the stitches. Like there's no sign or no indication of it. That's being whole. Okay. So you know you have to be not just healed, but you want to be whole, because when you're not whole, you will see that scar, and it can set off a chain of reaction. And that's where the post traumatic stress comes in, and the trauma sets in, and the anxiety and the depression sets in, to the point where it's controlling you instead of you controlling it. And you don't want to be medicated all the time to cope and deal with whatever, to deal with your healing and and to become whole. You don't it's almost just like a temporary fix, a temporary high. When you come off of it, then what? Now you got to take more to numb yourself up again, and you don't want to have that type of pattern, because I know for me, it did not help me. It made me worse. It made me suicidal. And that's another thing. You don't want to become suicidal. And for me, being in that place where I was just being medicated made me want to just commit suicide, because I didn't want to have to take medications and pills every day just to cope with life, just to have some type of peace or harmony in my life. I was just like, man, I got to, especially sometimes like 3 different types of medications a day. And I was like, this isn't working. This isn't what I need. It wasn't what I needed. I needed to be whole. I wanted to be fixed. I wanted to be restored, renewed, renovated, um, back to the person that the universe, that the divine one truthfully created me to be. And in order for me to get to that person and to be able to embrace that person, I had to become whole. Um, so when you're facing addictions, um, to trauma, pain, and hurt caused by abuse, it it's very challenging. It's really rough, and you have to, must surround yourself. with inspirational and positive things. You don't need to be exposed and around or entertaining negativity in any form or fashion. If you can walk away from it, or if you can change the channel and put on a different video, YouTube, look at a different post on the internet, then you do it. But what you don't do is entertain any kind of negative energy, because that would stagnate you and it would cause you to become hindered in your process to not just healing but wholeness. And so after my last relationship, you know, at first I was depending on him to heal me, to make me whole. You caused me this hurt, you gonna have to heal me and make me whole. And the intimate set, yes. Sense of it, yes. But never give nobody that kind of power. Don't depend on somebody else's power to heal you. You have power within yourself to be healed and to be made whole. Nobody can make you whole. You have to make yourself whole. And so when it's like I'm telling you, the universe was dealing with me on this, and when that happened, I was able to completely forgive. And you know, of course you don't forget, but Neil was like really literally able to forgive, where I was actually able to have an entire conversation with my ex not too long ago. We were on the phone and we had great dialogue, intellectual conversation. And I'm gonna be honest, I was trying to see if I was going to feel a certain kind of way, because I was expecting to have a certain reaction or feel a certain way, and it didn't happen. And so at first I questioned myself about it. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just trying to be brave, be tough, put on this tough material because I don't want to deal with the hurt, or I don't want to be reminded of the hurt and what happened. And so I thought that maybe I was just suppressing it and pushing it down so I won't deal with it, how to face it. But that wasn't it at all. And I was just like, wow, like it's like I feel it's like bands was broken off of me, chains was broken off me, and I felt free and liberated. And I'm just like, wow, I wasn't able to feel like that for a long time. As a matter of fact, I never felt like that. I never felt this form of freedom and liberty. And that's why, like with me, when it comes to, and another thing, when you're going through this process, you can't be in a relationship because, excuse me, and you can't be entertaining the idea of being in a relationship, because one thing about it, if a man really wants to be with you, he really love you, he would be a genuine friend to you, even if you're a man. And a woman really wants to be with you, and you're going through this process of not just healing but making yourself whole, she would be there and be a support system for you. She won't try to push herself on you. She won't try to become intimate with you. She would just be a really good friend, that a good friend, because that's what you need at that time. You don't need anybody trying to be sexual with you. You don't, because it's going to confuse your emotions. And you would think that it's love when it's just infatuation, or you're just giving into loneliness, um or you giving into the fact that it feels good to have that. It does, it feels good to cuddle and to be able to hug up and lay up, and snuggle up to someone, a nice warm body, especially when it's being cold now. Shoot, you can be kind of cold and you can snuggle up to somebody nice. You're like, whoa, this feels good. But you can't allow that to cloud your judgment, and and take you off course and off track. So if somebody say that they really want to be with you, they would allow you to become whole. They would give you the time to become whole, because what end up happening is, if you're not whole but you're just healed, anything that that person do that was similar to anything that caused you to become emotionally injured anyway, and it causes you abuse and trauma and pain and the addiction to it in the first place, you're going to start becoming guarded. You're going to start becoming insecure. You're going to start putting your guards up. You're going to start looking for things that could potentially remind you or potentially be something that is not you. You'll start misinterpreting their actions and their words. Say, for instance, you're out in a store and it could be a couple walking together, and you just out of common, the person out of common courtesy would just be like, hello, say hello to both the man and the woman. But if you're not whole and you're not healed, if you're a man, you'll look at it as she's flirting with this woman's husband. And if you're the woman, you'll look at it as him trying as your significant other or your spouse trying to flirt with the man's wife. I mean, yeah, it that's because you haven't become whole. And it's like you seeing that scar because you got healed, but you see the scarring. So you haven't become whole. So now you're going to be seeing things that's not really there. And you're going to make more of things than what it is. And next thing you know, it's going to eventually cause a rift in your relationship or your marriage. It's going to become toxic. It's going to become dysfunctional. And then you're now back by yourself in another relationship, out of that relationship. So this has been the addiction to trauma and hurt and pain is very serious, and you cannot have anything that would distract you from becoming whole. Um, and so with that, I realized that I had power within myself to become whole. You know, healing isn't what I needed. I needed to be whole. I needed to be restored. I need to be renewed. And the only person that has the power to do that was me through my creator. Not through man, not through a woman, not through my mom, not through my siblings, not through my family, not through nobody. It had to start. It starts and ends within me. And not, but I'm not saying that you go back and you put yourself back in that situation again. You don't make yourself vulnerable like that again. No, it's a lesson learned, and you move on. And sometimes you just got to love people from afar, and that's okay if that's the case. But yeah, it took me going through that to really face everything because it did just start. See, that's the thing. When you're dealing with hurt and trauma and pain, when you have an addiction to it, it doesn't start with that relationship that you're in. It started even earlier on. But sometimes because we're just busy with life, going to school, going to work, going to school and work, depending on your age, and um, if you had already gotten married and have an established family or you have an established career, there's things that we could go through in life or just having a hard life, a rough life. What it does, it distracts us from facing, just being able to stay still and face ourselves and face our addiction to hurt, trauma, and pain, to even be able to know and see that we are. Um, so you can still have a fully functional life and productive life and be addicted to hurt, trauma, and pain. You can be completely dysfunctional in your psyche and in your spirit. That's why I put this. I I think probably mostly everybody or some of us have met somebody or knew someone who has a very nice home, have 3 or 4 nice vehicles, real nice, make really good money, has a phenomenal career, but they back ish crazy. Something's wrong with them. Like the way. And then you be trying to think like, how in the world did they even get the job? And they're usually in a leadership role. You be like, how can they lead? And they are so crazy because a person can be somewhat business smart or book smart and has no common sense smarts. Or a person can have the education that is required, but not the common sense that come along with it and the wisdom knowledge come along with it, and still land a leadership position. And the company will see that there's a problem in the way the person is doing things, but some people, dysfunctional people, embrace dysfunctional people. It's kind of like the birds of the same feather flock together. So that's why it doesn't be addressed. You think about police departments, for instance. I hate to say it, but you got a lot of violent and dysfunctional police officers. And what do those chiefs of police do? Even when there's video footage clearly showing that the officer violated a person's right, was being inappropriate, being abusive, being violent, they'll be looking right at it. Well, they follow protocol. This knowing it's a complete lie. But that's why I'm saying, like, that's why when you're going through being whole, you can't be around people. Because you got people that's their minds are just not there, but just because a person is able to function and prosper in their personal lives and economically and financially doesn't mean that they are spiritual and emotionally and psychologically. And usually they are not even married or in a relationship with someone. Um, if they are, it's usually a toxic marriage. I remember it's not funny, but it's funny, but not funny at the same time. It was in a Walmart in Philly. And this Italian couple was in there. Because they're Italian couple and they have been around Italians. I mean, not like like one or two. No, I've been around a lot of Italians. And I noticed that they're very boisterous and feisty, especially the women. The women are very feisty. Oh my gosh, like they worse than Puerto Rican women. No pun intended. And them Trinidadian women, like, woo, honey, they're on another level. Okay, Dominican women and Italian women, I think they will go to war at each other because they're too much alike. I think they're worse than they both back is crazy. But anyway, they were in there arguing over nothing. It was okay. They went into the store. They were arguing when they came into the store because you could hear them. They were already arguing when they came into the store. They never purchased anything at the store. They walked through the store, I guess, walked down the aisle to see if they had what they needed or wanted. They didn't. So they were arguing about um, a brand name of it was some candy. Yeah, it was candy. I remember that it was candy. They were on the candy aisle, and the woman, she was upset. She wanted some brand of candy, and they had it, but they didn't have it in the flavor that she wanted. And he was just like, "Get it anyway. You want it, so just get it. At least you got the brand." And she got upset because he told her to get it. And she snapped. Oh my gosh, she went off on him. And me and my now ex, we were looking like we don't ever want to be like that. Like that is crazy. But you have people who are in toxic relationships and it works for them because they are toxic and or because they have been taught to be a certain way from generation to generation, just like with melanin people who have ancestors that were kidnapped and forced into slavery and forced to think a certain way and to act a certain way to deal with things a certain way. It's habitual. addiction and pattern. And so, just because, again, just because someone functions and is successful in society doesn't mean that they are altogether there. Look at Bill Gates. Look at number 45, rich, successful, married, got all this stuff, and just loony, loony. They all need to be in the psychic ward, in an asylum. They need to lock they behind us, put them in straight jackets, and put them in a room, a padded wall room. That's just my opinion. So knowing that this happens, um, you can't be you can't be too casual, and you can't just be so open to people. You have to really, at that time, you do through the going through healing and becoming whole, you have to guard yourself with all diligence. I mean, you really do. You have to guard your mind, your heart, your spirit, your energy. If somebody want to bring negative energy to you, you can't entertain it. Don't even give into it. Don't, just reject it and start doing affirmations. Like, start looking at yourself in a positive light. Start saying that I'm whole, I'm healed and made whole. I am renewed, I am restored, I am rejuvenated, I am revived, I accept the real me. I accept the me that my creator made. I walk into my realness, into my wholeness, you know. Start saying things like that, and you have to not just say it, but mean it. And believe it. And sometimes I'm gonna be honest, when I first started off with the affirmations, I was like, this is annoying, so stupid. I ain't do it. Like, what the world is. But I stopped thinking like that, and I just stuck with it, and I just kept repeating and start seeing myself as deserving, seeing myself as worthy, seeing myself as valued, seeing myself as an irreplaceable jewel, a treasure, a one of a kind that no one can ever replace and will never exist again. And so I started seeing myself like that, and that really woke me up too, because I'm just like, wait a minute, I don't have to be taking this ish. And I know that in society, the majority, because see, you think about the majority of people, they would just settle and they would just allow and take stuff. And I hate to say this, but especially being a woman, but a lot of women just settle just to have a man. It's like the guy who has the six wives and they're all pregnant at the same time. That tells you a lot. You look at just about every church, especially Melanin churches. Who do you see in there majority of the time? Women. You see women in there. You know, women have been made to feel inferior and to feel weak and to feel like we have to tolerate stuff that men don't have to tolerate. Like, it's okay for a man to have that many wives and or girlfriends, that he can have multiple partners, but we as women, we can't do that because, oh, well, you're a mother, you carry life, that's nasty, you shouldn't do that. It's nasty for you. You plant seed for us to have life, to carry life in us, so that's nasty. You be planting your seeds in and everywhere, especially the ones who don't take care of their children. Like, are you kidding me? They'll be trying to be no double standards. And exactly what it is double standard. And they like to have these double standards when it comes to men and women. So, society in a whole, and just the whole way that these we have been taught how to think and how to act, and what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable, how to perceive things, how not to perceive things. It has all been a lie, and a lot of it has been deceptiveness, and it's all been as a way to control a person and to do what they want to do to a person and get away with it. It's kind of like well, I ain't gonna say that. That'll open up a whole can of worms, so I'm just gonna leave that. I'm just gonna not even say it. Not right now. Anyway, I have no problem saying what I want to say. Y'all know that, but right now it's not the time for it, so I'm not gonna say it. But so because we have been raised with double standards and accepting abuse as normalcy and as it just being tough love or it's just being a part of life or it's just one of those things of life, you just have to deal with it. That's not that's not acceptable. And what happens is because they know it's wrong and there's no valid reason or excuse for it, they are trying to make you or make the people who are the person who is being victimized feel guilty for standing up for him or herself or for calling the BS out, for calling out the foolery and calling out the nonsense, for calling it out. They try to make you feel bad about it. So this has been a consistent pattern from for centuries. I mean, like over 1,000 years, 2,000 years, even longer than that. It's just been a continuous habitual pattern and problem. So now we're here. And with technology, because now with technology, it's easier to penetrate people psychologically because people are going to watch things that are entertaining. That's why I be careful what I put in my spirit. I have no issues necessarily with people on reality TV shows because I don't know them, you know. And people do they have bills to pay. Shoot, they living a good life. A lot of them, they have a good life. They have homes, nice houses, and nice communities and stuff, businesses. They're doing really good for themselves, and able to provide for their children. But at what cost? To get on national TV and degrade yourself and degrade others, to act unseemly, to be inappropriate, at what cost though? So it's like it's always so much negativity with the reality TV. That's why I don't watch it. It's not that it is entertaining, but it's also negative entertainment. So I don't watch it because I don't want to pollute my spirit or my mind. And when you're constantly exposed to negativity like that, you start accepting it and not seeing it as a big problem. That's why you have people who would go into a restaurant, like the ladies who went into True Foods kitchen restaurant and felt okay to stand up on the seats and twerk and act a fool because they do stupid stuff like that on these reality TV shows, but they're grown and they know right from wrong. So they can't say that nobody on those reality TV show was there with a gun to their head, making them act unseemly and inappropriate like that. Um, Even with the guy, the way he responded back, he had every right to respond, but the way his language and the way he addressed it, especially with melanin women, with mostly melanin women being in there, and he said that majority of his 70% of his customers are women. Why would you then want to go and curse them out, even if they are being inappropriate? And I understood that he didn't want to call the cops because we know sometimes with cops and us, things don't go right. Even if we call the cops on us, it could go to another level. So he didn't want to have to call the cops on him. He was hoping that they would have enough sense to sit their stupid asses down and act like they know how to conduct themselves in a freaking restaurants. I don't want your booty shaking around my food, like Lovey T says. And big shout out to Lovey T. She's a jewel. She's like the ambassador of YouTube and vlog to me. Because she's been doing it for a long time and she's just phenomenal. I like Lovey T. A lot of people have a problem with her. They try to dick pic and find issues with her. They call her liars and stuff. But the thing is, she always shows proof. Like, how is she lying when she's showing concrete proof? It's not hearsay or whatever. She's showing you the proof in the pudding. So I don't know, but anyway. So but yeah. So he felt comfortable talking to them like that because they're melanin women. And so you got to, if it was a group of white women in there, I'm quite sure he wouldn't talk to them that way. So it's just like we have this disconnect and discord where we feel comfortable acting a certain way with certain people. And that is a form of slavery mentality. It's a form of Stockholm syndrome, you know. So, we have to be careful what we entertain and what we allow in our spirit, especially when we are going through healing and wholeness, excuse me, from abuses and from those addictions to the hurt, trauma, and pain that the abuse caused. So be around positivity, positive energy, positive vibes. Listen to positive music. Don't listen to music talking about killing and calling women all kind of degrading names. If you're a woman, especially, you don't need to be listening to music that's calling you bees and referring to you as bees, hoes, and all of these other derogatory names. No, you need to listen to stuff that's going to build you up, call you queen, empress, valuable, you know, upright, desirable, lovable and stuff. You need to listen to inspirational um, dialogue. Um, so with addiction, um, and I'm gonna let me put this up so you guys can see this. This is what it says addiction is, and we're gonna read this together. Okay, addiction is a state of being compulsively committed to a habit or practice or to something that is psychologically or physically habit forming as narcotics, to such an extent that is um, cassation. Cassation. I mean, is this? I can't even see. I got my glasses. Is that an I right there? I can't even see what that word is. Causes severe trauma. Oh, satiation. Okay. To call, I can't, they ain't gonna see. Okay, so if that's the case, what addiction is pretty much in a nutshell, what they're saying is having a strong desire, uncontrollable desire, and impulse to something that is not good for you. Or even if it's good for you, it's just something that you just find yourself as like fiending for, like a person who's addicted to drugs because their body is fiending for it, So that's what addiction is. And here's abuse. Abuse comes in so many different forms. So abuse is to use wrongly. Let me put on my day glasses. Sorry. Let's see. Okay. See, I need to put on my reading glasses. Then maybe I could dang on see. Okay, to use wrongly or improperly, misuse to abuse one's authority, to treat in a harmful, injurious, or offensive way, to abuse a horse, in other words, like to hit a horse, it says to abuse one's eyesight, to speak um, insultingly, harshly, or unjustly, or justly to or about, revile, uh, malign, to commit sexual assaults upon, absolutely to deceive or mislead, proper, wrong, improper use. I'm sorry, I gotta clean my glasses off because I have like two pair of reading glasses, and these I didn't know these was dirty like this. Like they are really. I'm trying to figure out how the hell they get dirty like this. Like, what the hell? I ain't even worn them. I've been wearing the brown ones. These are the black leopard ones, and I've been wearing the brown ones. So I don't even know how this one got dirty, and they're inside their case. I might have to just put on the brown ones because I can't really see out of these. Okay. Insulting language, bad or improper treatment, maltreatment, a corrupt or improper practice or custom to abuse of, let's see, totalitarian. What in the world is that word? Totalitarian. Um, rape or sexual assault, deception. It's just that's what abuse. Some things of abuse, and so abuse pretty much is when someone is taking advantage of you and they treat you any kind of way, talking to you any kind of way, being disrespectful. And they're doing this stuff intentionally. They know what they're doing. They're clearly aware of it, but they just don't care. Okay, let's go to hurt. Hurt is to damage or decrease the efficiency of a material object by striking, rough use, improper care to affect, adversely harm, to hurt one's reputation, to cause manipulate mental pain, to offend or grieve, to feel or suffer bodily or mental pain or distress, to cause bodily or mental pain or distress, to cause injury, damage, or harm, to suffer wants or needs. So these are things that a lot of people are addicted to, and they don't even realize that they're addicted to it. And so I want to be going over these back and forth as we, continue on every Saturday going through this, because a lot of people are suffering and they don't realize that they're suffering from addictions to pain and hurts and stuff. So we're going to work together, people, and we're going to help heal and make each other whole. But you got to really do the leg work. You got to make yourself whole. Never give that anybody that kind of power to make you whole, or to make them feel like they have to make you whole. You can make yourself whole. You don't have to depend on somebody else to do that for you, okay? Because nobody can do it for you. It's just like if you don't have confidence, can't nobody make you have confidence. You have to be willing to have confidence in yourself. Even if someone is motivating you and they have confidence in you, until you have it in yourself, it doesn't matter. I was talking to someone and we were talking about that. It, it's our individual choice and decision. And until you're ready to do that, it's just like until somebody's ready to be married and be faithful, they're not going to. Um, until somebody is ready to grow up and be, and when I say grow up, I'm talking about growing up mentally and emotionally and mature. They're not going to until somebody, is ready to better themselves as a person. They're not going to. And we, until somebody's ready to go to work, they're not going to. They're going to bomb off everybody. But yeah, so these are some things what I'm talking about, the addiction to hurt, pain, and trauma caused by these different types of abuses. And so it's something that we definitely need to address. There's spiritual abuse, emotional, mental, psychological, verbal abuse, and we definitely cannot ignore it. So hopefully, um, with this segment, kind of give you guys an introductory to what we're really going to be talking about, why I'm talking about this, and hopefully some of the information that I shared would actually help you to identify any kind of emotional abuse or addictions to any type of abuse that you may not be aware that you're addicted to, that is causing you pain, trauma, and hurt. You know, um, it's so easy to overlook and so easy to dismiss because, again, we've been taught so much stuff, wrong stuff, and deceitful things that have become normalized, and dysfunctionality has become normalized. As a matter of fact, being dysfunctional is a normal thing now. If you're not dysfunctional, something's wrong with you. Let the dysfunctional people tell it because they can't see past dysfunctionality. So that's all they can see. That's all they're exposed to. That's all they know. So anything other than that is unreasonable to them. Is unsensible, insensible, or however you say it, whatever. But we have to heal ourselves and make ourselves whole. Okay, you have that right, And if people would start doing that more and stop just making excuses because they don't want to deal with their emotions, people don't like to deal with themselves. They don't like to deal with emotions and feelings because people don't like to deal with hurt. They don't want to psychologically go there, especially men. Men definitely don't like to psychologically go there because they don't want to have to cry. They don't want to have to, show vulnerability, show what they consider weakness. And it's, let me tell you, there's nothing weak about facing fears and facing addictions and wanting to not just be healed but be made whole from it. It takes a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot of psychological strength and self control and self discipline to do that. It's not easy at all. So if you're able to do that, kudos to you. If I had on the hat, I take my hat off. Hats off to you. But we got to be willing to do better. And it's so much easier to be negligent, to be reckless, to be destructive. And that's why a lot of people really prefer to do that because, it's easier. Nobody, most people don't want to be responsible. Most people don't want to have to face reality. They don't want to have to deal with their fears and they don't want to have to change their bad behaviors to be good people or to do good and do right by people. So what they try to do is make those who are making those kind of changes for the better in their lives feel bad or feel weak or feel like a punk, feel stupid, feel inferior to them, feel um, like they're crazy and stuff. It's like reverse psychology that they try to use and manipulativeness that they try to use, but that's what narcissistic people do. And a lot of people are aware that they are narcissistic, but they don't care because to them, being narcissistic works for them. It's like a protector, it's like their guard. That's their defense mechanism to keep from being hurt and possibly victimized. But a lot of times they have already been victimized and already been hurt, and that's why they are narcissistic the way they are. So, but we're going to get into more discussion. This is going to be something that we're going to probably be discussing up till like February. In between on other days, we'll talk about other things, but on Saturdays at 6 p.m., this is what we're going to be talking about in these made these particular segments will probably last up to 2 hours because it's so much information to impact, and you can't just pack it in just a short period of time because this isn't one of those topics or one of these type of issues that you need to rush through. You really have to break it completely down. And to break it down is going to take time to do that, to break it down and to feed it to everyone because this is a huge, huge issue. That's why you have family members who have siblings that abuses them, and the parents call it sibling rivalry, and everybody, other people start saying, oh, it's sibling rivalry, it's sibling rivalry. Always, that's normal. It's not normal for siblings to be abusing each other, whether it's verbally, physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, sexually. It's never okay. It's never okay, and we have to stop normalizing abusive behaviors and inappropriate behaviors because when we normalize it, then it makes people not have accountability. That's why a lot of people be in jail because they like to put their hands on people and they think it's okay because society has normalized it. Their families have normalized it when it's not appropriate behavior. It starts early when children are starting to hit and they want to fight and they getting violent and they think it's okay when they can't have their way to swing and stuff. But they get it honestly. And you have to, if you're not teaching them right, they're gonna grow up with that mentality. You got people that grow up with, um, I hate to say it, these Karens, they grow up with this privileged mentality and attitude where they feel like they're above the law and they're above anybody else that they can do and say whatever they want to do to you or anyone else and have no consequences with it. No, darling, no, it doesn't work that way. There's consequences to your actions. And depending on what you do, it depends on the level of consequences to those actions. So we have to start normalizing inappropriate and dysfunctional and abusive behaviors and face it head on. So, with that said, if you guys would like to be a sponsor or make a donation, you can on the Cash App, dollar sign CHEEN LLC. If you want to go PayPal, you can do paypal.me / CHEEN LLC, or you can go to the website and you can make a donation from the website, either or sponsorship payment or support from the website. I really appreciate every single donation. People have made donations, especially to my Gloves On campaign. And I'm very grateful for those who have signed the petition, who has made donations, who are inboxing me asking what they can do to help me with the Gloves On campaign. For those who have purchased a calendar, which I'm still haven't gotten enough orders to do a bulk to order the calendars at a reasonable price. So hopefully I can. If not, those who have already purchased, I'll just go ahead and I will have the calendar printed out for you guys and have it sent to you all because you all already paid your money for it and stuff. So I will at least get the calendars for you guys. But thank you. Yeah, you can order a calendar, the Gloves On campaign calendar, which is about chronic illnesses. It brings awareness of different types of chronic illnesses and diseases um, that people may be suffering from. So you're more than welcome to participate in that. And you can just overall just go to the website and just explore the website. Now, I am in the process of restructuring the website's under reconstruction, but you can still go there, but you may see some things out of place. They don't have anything to do with the category. You may see some of the categories duplicated. That's because it's going through the process of vamping it out. I'm hoping I can knock it out tonight. But like I said, dealing with this pneumonia, it's been really difficult. It's been really hard to do that. But I do appreciate you guys so much for your support and for your help and just being there, and just make sure that you continue to tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. If you want to be a guest, just let me know. You can send a request to me to my DM on Facebook or on Instagram or at info at zheenllc.com. And hey, we can go for there. Let me see. Let me put this. I think I just put it in. I don't know why it does that. It won't allow me to. Okay, whatever. But anyway, info at zheenllc.com if you want to be a guest, because I will have to see you a special link, a particular link to add you on to this live stream. So anyway, thank you again. I appreciate it. You can always watch this on live on the website, and actually we can chat and interact directly. Even here, we can direct. We can chat directly. As a matter of fact, let me see. Let's see. Okay, I don't see a comment or a post right now. So let's see. I'm gonna go to all. All right. So I don't see that post a comment, chat. You click on chat, and we can make dialogue even just here. So hey, it is what it is. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you guys. I see you all here next Saturday to talk about addiction, but through the week I will be talking about different things. I just do stuff at random a lot of times, so you can catch it either here, or you'll see it on Facebook or on the website or on one of the social media platforms. I try to put everything on my social media, on my website, so that you can just click a link and go directly to it. So you don't have to be trying to go through all these different avenues and got to go click here, just to click there, just to click there. I try to make it simple. So that's why I tell people just go to my website if you want to get access to or join me on any of my social media platforms. Just go to the website because people do be trying to create fake duplicate pages, which I have found a couple of them. And I told them if they didn't shut them down, I was going to sue them because my name is trademarked. I'm like, my business name and my public figure name is trademarked. So if you don't change it or you don't stop using it, I'm going to sue your ass, point blank, period. I'm not playing with them either. But anyway, you all take care. God bless, one love, peace. And I'm out like a light.